that the governor of the state of Florida says, I trust the work that you're doing, and you guys will be my official voice to say who can and couldn't participate. That's unheard of, but that's the magic that made Miami. Okay? Second institution, incredibly valuable, is Florida International University, because this is the future. They are the largest producer of Cuban-American engineers going forward. So as we hand over the torch, it is my great pleasure to introduce Professor Mitrani. Professor Mitrani is both a graduate from the University of Florida, has distinguished himself in multiple academic positions as well as in industry itself. Professor.
Good evening. We have heard from Pete, Delphine, and Elena about the trials, tribulations, accomplishments, and success of our parents and past generations of Cuban engineers. In order to fully appreciate the magnitude of their triumphs, however, we need to understand who they were and the context of the time. 10 years ago, my father, el ingeniero Jaime Alberto Mitrani, friend and colleague of Agustín Recio, Israel Seinuk, Pedro Martinez, Pete's dad, and Delphine Molins, Delphine's dad, and recognized by many Americans as well as Cuban engineers as one of the great Cuban engineers of his generation, shared with me an article published in El Nuevo Herald on January 31st, 2004. This article was entitled Deber de Gratitud, which loosely translated means we have an obligation to express our gratitude. In that article, Andrés Reinaldo, a Cuban journalist who came to Miami in the 1980 Mariel boat lift, described the early wave of Cuban immigrants that arrived in the United States. He wrote, that initial wave of exiles from Castro will be without doubt the most painful in our history. Even with all the faults arising from an immature civic context, it was the most prosperous, creative, democratic, and happy Cuban generation. Of course, that Cuba was not a paradise. However, now, half a century later, he says, it is clear that it was as close to a paradise as we have ever been. Reinaldo goes on to say, taking stock, let us admit that in 1959, Cuba was in need of a revolution. Today, it needs 10 revolutions. In 1959, Cubans were struggling with defining national politics consistent with national virtues. Tomorrow, we will consider ourselves lucky if we can even find a nation. Reinaldo goes on to reflect that in 1980, he lost a Cuba that could have been, and suggests that loss pales when compared to our parents' loss. That generation, he says, lost a Cuba that already was, and that will never be again. Today, the spirit of Cuban engineering is alive and flourishing. The 2012-2013 Florida International University College of Engineering and Computing Annual Report states, the diversity of our student body continues to be a source of pride and distinction for our college. According to the most recent Profiles of Engineering report, of the American Society for Engineering Education, the FIU College of Engineering and Computing continues to be the top producer of Hispanic engineers in the United States. The Hispanic Outlook in Higher Education also ranked the college as #1 for degrees awarded to Hispanics, both in engineering and in computer science. This past year, the college ranked 8th, tied with Florida A&M, FSU, and Southern University for awarding bachelor's degrees in engineering to African Americans. FIU ranked 2nd in the state for the number of bachelor's degrees in engineering awarded to women, 1st for the percentage of master's degrees awarded to women, and 2nd for the percentage of PhDs awarded to women. The spectacular growth, success, and importance of FIU to our community and to South Florida are due in no small part to one of our featured honorees, Dr. Modesto Mitch Medic. A successful and accomplished Cuban engineer, academic, entrepreneur, and leader, Dr. Medic took the helm of this fledgling institution in 1986 and engineered the plan and the nearly quarter-century effort to turn the institution into a world-class educational and research center. In retrospect, an examination of what he did and how he did it reveals a leader who had a vision of the future and marshaled the effort of many dedicated individuals into a focused, systematic, and dedicated endeavor to make the vision of a world-class institution in our community a reality. He started implementing his plan when he first charged this team with turning the then engineering technology programs in our college into full-fledged, accredited professional engineering programs. This was the foundation for what was to follow. Patiently and systematically, he doggedly pursued and proceeded to put together the building blocks that make a center of learning a great institution. After establishing the professional engineering programs, Dr. Medic proceeded to strengthen our College of Business, successfully overcame many obstacles to establish a professional school of architecture, overcame more hurdles and fights to bring a public law school to our community, and last, but certainly not least, the crowning achievement. He succeeded in the effort to establish a major public medical school in South Florida. Through his endeavors, accomplishments, and example, Dr. Medic adds immeasurably to the legacy of Cuban engineers. Thank you. At the FIU College of Engineering and Computing, the core of our student body is the Cuban and Cuban-American engineering student population. They have diverse backgrounds and come from all socioeconomic strata. Some are from relatively poor, humble backgrounds. Some are the first members of their family to go to college. And some are the first members of their family to study engineering. As the nature and fabric of our society and its problems have changed, so has engineering, and so have engineering students. The current generation of engineering students shares some of the characteristics of the post-World War II baby boomers and of the late 70s and 80s Generation X. With the baby boomers, they share the notion of a world that improves with time. And with Generation X, they share a strong belief in individual effort, business risk-taking, and entrepreneurship. After years of working with engineering students on events such as the future city competitions. My dear friend Rod Rodriguez, himself a prime example of a successful and consummate Cuban engineer, said to me recently, "This generation of engineering students are ultra-professional. They are keenly aware of their society and of their environment and have a well-developed social consciousness and sense of social responsibility." Today's engineering students have their work cut out for them. Charles Vest, President Emeritus of MIT, described the challenges of today's engineering students in a talk given on October 10th of 2005 at the annual meeting of the National Academy of Engineering. He said, "Engineering students prepared for the year 2020 and beyond must be excited by their freshman year. They must have an understanding of what engineers actually do, must write and communicate well, must appreciate and draw on the richness of American diversity, must think clearly about ethics and social responsibility, must be adept at product development and high-quality manufacturing, must know how to merge the physical, life, and information sciences when working at the micro and nano scales, and must know how to conceive, design, and operate engineering systems of great complexity. They must also work within a framework of sustainable development, be creative and innovative, understand business and organizations, and be prepared to live and work as global citizens." We are confident that the legacy and the priceless heritage that past generations of Cuban and Cuban-American engineers left us will be continued by those that follow. It is time to pass the torch to the next generation of engineers of Cuban and Cuban-American descent. As we do so, we remember and we honor our parents and those who are no longer here with us. They were our teachers and our role models, professionals and human beings that we loved, respected, admired, and who filled us with great pride at being Cuban and or having Cuban heritage. We remember their sacrifices, their perseverance, their strength, and their resilience as they painfully struggled to transition from the homeland they lost to a new life in our adopted country. Their memories, their principles, their wisdom, and their values are engraved in our hearts and our minds for eternity. They have been and will continue to be our rock and our guiding light. Thank you for being here this evening to honor Cuban engineers.
Wow, you're getting a standing ovation. Words like that, coming right from the heart, are so meaningful because we've all lived it. We understand the legacy. So let me tell you really quick what's on the other side of the wall. What we have been very fortunate between the artifacts that we got from the museum going back to the 1920s to relics that you yourselves provided to us. We created 4 different panels. One, history of Cuban engineering pre-Castro. The second one is the contribution of the civiles, and a lot of their memorabilia, a lot of their documents, you're going to find some priceless, priceless documents. The third is the Association of Cuban Engineers. Again, pictures, the original organization, the minutes from the meetings at Centro Vasco. I mean, it was just incredible relics. And then we feature the 4 different distinguished engineers that we talked about. So that's what it's all about. And you have the IBM personal computer. In closing, I want to give a very, very special exclamation point to some significant careers and some blessed individuals that have been our role models, our teachers, our legacy. Second, I am completely convinced, based on Jose's words, about the torch being passed on and the next generation having the conviction, having the innovation, having the spirit and the values to continue. The best compliment that we can give a group like this is not only that you're Cuban Americans, that you have created the American dream. You're Americans. God bless you all. Thank you.